Good morning. I'm debriefing a trip to Roaring Spring from this week. I'll get to that in a minute. I even took the plastic down that separated the basement into two halves uh, because of the winter. And now you can see what used to be uh, Rhapsody in Hot Pink. I called that water wheel back there. Now and I took all the I took all the cardstock off it. I kept it. For patterns for a while. I'll probably use it for kindling. But anyway, I'll probably call this Rhapsody in aluminum because pretty soon I'll have 16 buckets to go the whole way around that water wheel. But that's not my subject. I want to talk about Roaring Spring. Now, on that trip of Wednesday, I ran into Discontent. You might know the Shakespearean phrase, now is the winter of our discontent. Well, it's not winter, spring is springing. And I was a little surprised at the discontent I ran into. And that's what I want to talk about, pretty much only. I stopped by the Borough Council office just to tell the borough manager that I felt sorry for the way that I saw her being treated at the meeting, and she was very pleased to hear that. I guess she's been there for a very long time, and she told me that in all the time she's been there, she's never had an experience quite like that. And I talked about that meeting in another video. But that was the first stop. Well, then I went on to Danikay's Cafe, and there Sheena was sitting outside with a man whom I've talked about before, who knows a lot about Roaring Spring and even Lafayetteville, um, which is halfway between where I live and Roaring Spring. And conversation was grim. I was real happy to see Sheena because she had been very sick. She had been the reason that the Danikay's Cafe had been closed the other day. I hadn't seen her in, I think, maybe a couple of weeks. But she's over it. She's getting better. But she had quite a story to tell just about her own personal illness. But the man was, when I spoke about that I'd been to that meeting, well, that stirred up his complaints, and he had many. He very unhappy with the local government. One of the things that would keep coming around all the time, I think, is the sidewalks. I'm not going to list all the complaints that were there, but he was. Oh, and I will say about everybody's leaving. There's no work, and which is understandable. All the complaints are probably understandable, but the general mood was really discouraged, lacking hope. And then I went on to the Spring Dam Brewery, and there was a man there that I'd spoken to before. Usually I go in, I'm the first one and sometimes the only one there at that. I do that on purpose because I don't want to go there and listen to a whole bunch of music, and I don't want it to be loud. I love to have conversations with people. And he was ready to converse because we had had a wonderful conversation before about Roaring Spring. The man has declared, and he will declare at any time, he loves that town. It's where he's lived pretty much all his life. And I told him, Tim is his name. I told about him, I think, in another video. And I told him about having gone to that meeting. Well, the same thing happened. Although he loves the town, he'll say that he is very angry at the local government, the town council. And he knows those people personally. I don't know if he knows every single one of them personally, but he knows two or three of them very well, very well. And he likes them personally, but he's just so angry. And again, he said at one point, he said if he won the lottery and got $1 million, he would immediately give it to Roaring Spring to fix up the sidewalks. Uh, he's ready to try to help in a way, but he's just so angry. And probably the principal source of his anger is, and you got to understand this, his house, which he loved, ended up being taken by eminent domain uh, in order to widen the road coming in. I don't know the details of any of this, but he was full of anger. Although he never left, he would say once again, "I love this town," but the anger was there. It was while we were having that conversation that the final building of the paper mill came down, and it was interrupted. We went out and looked, and sure enough, it was already down. And I did a video about that. So I urged this man, Tim, to write his complaints on my Facebook, join my Facebook group, and write these complaints there, so that we can talk about them. And the Facebook group that I'm talking about is the Once and Future Roaring Spring. He's passionate about the town, and what's in the past, the once part, that really can't be changed. It can only be documented. And the future, that's where I am a lot of the time. Now the present, there's where all that discontent is. Now I've come to realize that in a way I've been looking at Roaring Spring through the eyes of a tourist, as if kind of ignoring what might be thought of as ugly or something, and exulting in the beauty that I see there. And I need to also, largely through what nature gave that site with its topography and its hydrology, but also with what humans have done with their wonderful domestic architecture and stuff. But I've got to also think about the people. Now, I credit the people that have managed to keep that town so beautiful. That was done by people, a lot of hard work and stuff, all the time, and caring about their properties and trying to make stuff look nice. But, you can't ignore the fact that people have done this. People will do stuff, and people are not there, by that measure, are discontent. I think a lot of it comes from the closing of the paper mill. But I just looked up the character Pollyanna. I couldn't think of her name, but I knew that there was a character in fiction that always looked on the bright side. I never read her book, but I don't want to be a Pollyanna for Roaring Spring. I want to take on the issues as well in the Once and Future Roaring Spring. I see my members have suddenly jumped to 22 from 12. So we'll see, maybe we'll have some discussion on there. All right, bye for now.